see it. So Chapter 2, Section 7, for participation today, I'll probably ask you what you got for some of the end answers. But starting problem number 1, if you weren't able to print this off, you'll just want to write down number 1. And you'll want to write down some, I'm going to write it to the side, but this is the problem that we're working. -4 is equal to t minus 11. Okay, so we've been working problems like this. We know that we want to simplify both sides, the left side and the right side of our equal sign, if that's necessary. But on this, there's not any parentheses, there's no like terms to combine. And so there's not really anything that we can do to simplify anything on the left or the right. Also, all of our variables are on the right side. Our variable is a t and it's on the right side. So we don't have variables on both sides. So this example is one of the ones that's a little bit easier. So we're going to add 11 to both sides. -4 plus 11 is going to give me 7. And so we're going to bring down our t, and -11 plus 11 is 0. So the right answer right here is going to be 7 for our solution set. Okay, problem number 2, and these are just basic. They should look a whole lot like what they look like on your homework. We're going to add 5. Again, we would simplify on the left and the right if we needed to, but there's not any parentheses. There's no like terms here. So we're going to go to the side with a variable on it, and we're going to add 5 to get rid of this -5. And we're going to get x is equal to 7 plus 5, which is 12. This -5 and this +5 just canceled out. There was nothing else to do there. So we would write the solution set is 12. Okay, now it may take you, I'm going to pause just a little bit. It may take you a little bit longer if you want to write out this. So the problem that we're doing is they want us to solve the problem and give the equation using x as the variable and give the answer. The problem says 4 less than 4 times a number is equal to 17. More than 7 times the number. What is the number? Okay, I'm going to give you just a minute to write that out. Okay, so give me 1 second. Okay, so on this problem, we want to really break it down into what the words say. So it says that we have 4 less than. So when I kind of talked about this when I had a number and it was my age. So I'm 47. So if I have 4 less than that, I'm going to have to say 47 minus 4. So 4 less than means we're going to subtract 4 from something. 4 less than. We're going to subtract 4 from something. We're going to subtract it from 4 times a number. And they want us to use X as our variable. So we don't know what the number is. So that's going to be X. So 4 times a number minus 4, because it's 4 less than that, is always your equal sign. And it's equal to 17 more than, so plus 7 times the same number. So 7x. So we're using X as our variable, 7 times the same answer. Okay, now this one's a little bit more complicated. We do have variables on both sides, so that's a problem. We don't have any parentheses to get rid of, and we don't have any like terms that we can combine, but we can move our variables because we don't want X's on both sides of the equal sign. I tend to want to move everything to the left side if I can. The only time I don't do that is if there would be nothing left over here. So in other words, if there was only 7x over here and not the 17, I wouldn't want to get rid of everything over here. So I would have moved the 4x. But since it was a plus 7x, I'm subtracting 7x. I'm getting 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Bringing down my x, minus 4 is equal to 17. The 7x minus 7x canceled out. Okay. And I am going to, now I have all my variables on the same side of the equal sign. So we're going to add 4. I'm just going to kind of carry this over here. So I have negative 3x minus 4 equals 17. We added 4. So negative 3x is equal to 21. The only thing we have left to do is get rid of this negative 3, and it's negative 3 times x. So we want to divide by negative 3, and so x is negative 7. X is negative 7. So the equation is, so right here, we would have written down 4x minus 4 equals 17 plus 7x. And our answer is negative 7. Now, don't forget, you can always go back and plug in your negative 7 where x is and make sure that both sides are still equal to check your work. And you're welcome to do that. But you're going to get negative 7. And especially if you're taking a test, you might want to check your work by plugging it back in like we were doing in the notes. Okay. Problem number 4 says find the value of the remaining variable in the formula, and it tells us to use 3.14 as an approximation for pi. So if we have to use pi, and I don't think we have to use pi here, so here's your rectangle you might want to draw. So you would write down number 4, maybe draw your rectangle here. You've got your formula here, and it says find the value of the remaining variable. So you might want to write down P is equal to 2L plus 2W. When you solve that, you're finding the perimeter of the rectangle. They're telling you some things here. They're telling you that the length is 5. And they're also telling you that the width is 2. So the only thing that we really don't know is the value for is P. So when we go to fill out our formula, P is equal to 2L plus 2W. Well, instead of L, they tell us L is 5. Put a 5 here. And instead of W, they tell us W is 2. So we would want to plug in 2 right there. So to find the answer to this, we could type it in our calculator just like this or in our brain, but it's 2 times 5, which is 10, plus 2 times 2, which is 4. So P is going to end up being 14. You're just plugging things in on that one. Not even really having to rearrange anything. It's just plugging things in. Okay. So on number 5, I know some of you are writing this down. If you're writing this down, it says the perimeter of a rectangle is 46. I do think you're going to have to, if you are jotting these notes down, you do have to write out this problem. And I would draw this rectangle real quick. So I'll give you just a minute to do that. Okay, so most of the time people consider the length part of it to be the longest side, and the width part of it, this is already labeled W, so we know this. So this tells us that the perimeter of a rectangle is 46 meters. We do know that a rectangle has the same length and the same width. So if this is W, this over here has to be W. And if this length is equal to 3, this length down here is equal to 3W plus 3. This length also is 3W plus 3. Okay, and so if we say this side plus this side plus this side plus this side, if we add all of the sides up, that's the perimeter, and it's supposed to equal 46. So we take and we say, I'm just going to start right here and say, and you could use this formula where you do 2 lengths plus 2 W's. I just think it's easier just to go around. So length plus one of our widths, 3W plus 3, plus another width, plus the length on the top, just go all the way around, has to be equal to 46. This next sentence says the length is 3 meters more than 3 times the width, which is what this says. So plus 3 and then 3 times the width. So 3 meters more is where they're adding on 3 and then 3 times the width. And it wants us to find the length and the width of the rectangle. So right here, I've got everything in terms of W. And you don't have to, but if there's no number in front of the W, those are just all the ones that don't have a number there are just ones, 1W. So if I combine my like terms, so I've got 1W plus 3 W's, well, that's 4 W's, plus another W, that's 5 W's, plus 3 more, that's 8 W's. So we've got 8 W's. And then these other 2 numbers don't have variables attached to them. The plus 3's here, so those 2 can go together. Plus 3 and plus 3 would be plus 6. And all of that equals 46. So we have combined like terms, and we are ready to solve. All our variables are on the left side, so we're good to go. We want to get rid of the plus 6. In fact, let's see what you come up with for the answer to this one after you solve 8W plus 6 equals 46. In the chat, tell me what you're getting for what is W. Okay, you don't have to worry about the length right now, but what is W? Okay, so Valencia, I definitely agree with you. We're going to come up with 5 when we do that, because we're going to subtract 6 from both sides and we're going to divide by 8. So the width of the rectangle right here in this box, we would want to put our 5. Then it says, and the length of the rectangle. So to find the length, we know a formula for the length. It's 3 times W plus 3. Right here is where we find that. So the length is 3 instead of W. We know W is 5. So we would plug that in, and 3 times 5 is 15 plus 3 is 18. So our length is going to be 18. Okay, and we're adding all the way around. We're not finding area. So when you're not finding area, your units are just regular old meters, not squared or cubed. So both of these would be meters. If it's squared, you're finding area. If it's cubed, you're finding volume. Okay, but both of ours are just 5 meters. Just regular old meters. Okay. Number 6. This shouldn't take very long. It just wants, number 6 just wants us to solve 9x equals 45. And by the way, this test review has 20 questions on it. So it's not too long, but I wanted to make sure that we had enough time. And so Ebony, I was saying earlier that I cut out, I'm not going to go over the whole lesson for section 7 because there's several examples in the review. I think it'll be good enough. And if you need extra help, you can always go to course content and look at that lesson separately. But on this one, we're just going to divide by 9 because it's 9 times x. So x ends up being 45 divided by 9, which is 5. Okay, so here is one of the ones that we have not gone over yet. It is from 2.7. And so I'm going to slow down on these ones from 2.7 just a little bit and make sure I'm going over it to help you. They're not too difficult. I am seeing that our answers may be cut off a little bit here. I don't know why it did that, but we can still work the problem. So number 7 says, basically, all you need to write down on number 7 is that we're going to take x is less than or equal to 4, and we're supposed to write it in interval notation. So interval notation, and we're supposed to graph it. So we're going to graph it too. So all interval notation means is that you're talking about something that's on an interval. And I think it's easier to graph it first. So like if I draw my graph and say, here's my number line, is what you would do to graph it. Here's my number line. And on the number line, I know I have to have a 4 because that's the number we're talking about. I'm just going to put some numbers around 4. I'm not going to draw every single one of them. I'm going to place some numbers around 4 just for my example. Now, one thing I want you to notice is that this problem has this little line underneath it. It's x is less than or equal to 4, which means it could be equal to. So since it can be equal to, I'm going to draw a dot at 4. If that line wasn't there, I would leave the line, or I would leave that dot open, because that would just mean x is less than 4. If it's x is less than 4, it's not equal to 4. But because that line is here, I'm going to fill it in. And I know that you guys talked to probably a whole lot when you were in school about an alligator eating something and all that good stuff. Basically, when I'm reading these, I read it from the right or the left to the right, just like I was reading a book. And if we're reading this and we come to the small part first, so to me on this, the point would be the small part. So x, I'm coming to the small part of this sign. If I come to the small part first, I'm going to say less than 4. X is less than 4. So what are some numbers that are less than 4? 3, 2, 1, 0. So when we graph this, we want to talk about everything. We kind of color in this way, all the things that are less than 4. So I colored in this dot because it had the equal to at 4. And I colored in this side because this said all the things that are less than 4. So there's the graph. It looks to me like, and they're doing it. They're saying this little thing right here would imply that it's an open circle. Let me make sure I'm graphing it like they are. So on this, on your graph, you're going to look for something because it's not showing up here. Since it has the equal to part, it's going to look like a bracket right there. And it's going to be colored in this way at 4. So if this one, so it has to be B or D because those answers aren't showing up here. But so what we would be looking for is we want something that's going this way, but at 4, it's a bracket and all of this stuff is colored in. That would be the right answer. Okay, and it's a bracket because it has the equal to part. This parentheses here means it doesn't have the equal to part. Okay, so when you are writing it in interval notation, I look at my graph and I say, well, what's the smallest thing that X could be? Well, this is going this way forever. So to negative infinity. All the numbers that are less than 4 would go to negative infinity. So you would say, well, it can start at negative infinity, and infinity always gets a parentheses here, not a bracket. And then you put comma and you go, okay, well, it starts at negative infinity is one of my answers. And then it goes all the way up until it gets to 4. And so you put 4 here and you put a bracket here because it can be equal to 4. So that's how you write it in interval notation. You look at your graph, you start from the left and you go to the right and you talk about it that way. And we're going to work several more of these so you'll know what we're doing, but that's another example. Okay. So there's number 7. Number 8. Here's what you're going to want to write down on number 8. I would just write down the problem here. So -1 is less than, because I came to the pointy part first, which is to me the smallest part, X, and X is less than or equal to 5. So when I draw this number line, I for sure want to have 2 numbers on this number line. I want -1 and I want 5 because those are the 2 numbers that we're talking about. Okay, I really don't care about the other numbers, but -1 is smaller than 5, so I would list them this way. When you have this situation, you have something, it's basically saying X is sandwiched in between these two. Because X is, if we go backwards, X is bigger than -1, but it is smaller or equal to -5. Okay, and if you'll look right here, there is no equal to. Okay, right here has the equal to part. So since this has no equal to, it gets a parentheses. It looks more like this. Since this one has the equal to, it gets a bracket. Okay, and we want all the things that are sandwiched in between there. So we want the stuff that's colored in between here. That's what our graph is going to look like. And when we write this in interval notation, we're going to read it from the left to the right. So we've got, it doesn't go to negative infinity this time. It starts at -1, but it's not equal to -1. So it gets a parentheses and it goes all the way up to 5, and it can be equal to 5. So it gets a bracket there. Okay. We're going to come into some more of those examples in just a minute. Okay, here's number 9. Here's what you're going to want to write down. So this one's not too bad. X plus 3/10 is equal to negative 3/5. Okay. I had a student really struggling with fractions yesterday. Just remind yourself, this fractions are just like a number. This is the same. You work the same way if it said x plus 3 is equal to negative 3. Okay, you need to go the side. Both sides don't have any parentheses. They don't have any things we need to combine. All the x's are on the left side. So on this one, you just need to get rid of the positive 3/10. So we can do that by subtracting 3/10 from both sides of our equal sign. Bring down our x. This is going to go away. And when you go to your calculator, you're going to want to type in exactly what it says. Don't make in don't put in extra signs that aren't there. So you would say negative 3/5 minus 3/10. So negative 3/5 minus 3/10. On this calculator, remember that you do alpha y equals. So negative 3/5. And you could put the negative sign in the front. You don't have to put it up there with the 3, but minus, we need another fraction. So alpha y equals, I didn't hit alpha, I guess. So let me get over here, sorry. So minus alpha y equals, we do want that fraction. So 3/10, enter. And I'm getting negative 9/10. So if I did negative 3/5 minus 3/10, we get negative 9/10. Yes, Valencia, that is correct. So sometimes I have a little bit of trouble toggling back and forth between these things. So negative 9/10. This answer is going to be negative 9/10. That's it. Okay. So number 10, I'm going to come down here just so I have a little bit more room, but 7x minus 10 is equal to 5x. Okay. So this is one of those situations where we've got all the parentheses are done on the left. There's nothing that I can simplify on the left or the right, but I do have variables on both sides of my equal sign. So I don't want to subtract 5x on this case, because if I do, there will be nothing left on this side of the equal sign. So when this happens, I like to come over here and get this other variable and move it over. So I would mess with the 7x and subtract it from both sides of the equal sign. That way I don't have a 0 left on this side. So I've got negative 10 is equal to 5 x's, take away 2 x's, it's negative 2x. I think I said that wrong. I said the answer ahead of time. 5x, take away 7x, it's negative 2x. And now we want to go to the side with the variable on it, which is here. And we want to divide by negative 2 on both sides of our equal sign. And that's going to give us our answer that x is negative 10 divided by negative 2, which is going to be positive 5. So remember that the review is just like the test, except for the numbers are changed. So when you get to problem number, and it may be not in the exact same order, but when you get to the problem like this one, it may be, it may look like 3x plus 7 equals 2x. But if you know how to work this problem, you should know how to work this problem. The answers are you should be ready for that. So the test review is very, very similar to the test. Okay, so that's number 10. Number 11 is off of section 7. So I will slow down on this one. Here's what you want to write down. You want to write down 9x. So number 11, you're going to write down 9x plus 1 is less than 8x minus 5. Okay, so this one's a little bit more difficult because this time we have to solve this problem. And to solve this problem, it's very similar to how we were solving the regular equations that just had an equal to, except for one thing. When you're solving this, so this is called an inequality if it has a less than or greater than sign in it. When you're solving this, if it has a less than or greater than sign, and you have to multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to switch the sign. So in the process of solving this, and that means, so if it's a less than sign, you make it greater than, or if it's a greater than sign, you change it to less than. So when I'm solving this, if I have to make this if I have to multiply or divide by a negative number, I have to change the direction of my sign. So I don't have anything to simplify on the left or the right. I'm going to subtract 9x to get my x's to move to the same side of, I guess, to the same side of the equation or the inequality here. So 9x minus 9x is nothing. Bring down my positive 1, bring down my less than. I'm subtracting 9. I'm subtracting 9x, so I'm not multiplying or dividing by anything. So I'm not messing with my sign yet. Then I'm going to say 8x minus 9x. Well, 8 minus 9 is -1, and I'm going to bring down my -5. So 8x minus 9x got me -1x, and then I'm bringing down my -5. So I'm going to now go to the side with the x on it and start working there. So I'm going to add 5. So 1 plus 5 is going to give me 6. And again, I'm adding. I'm not multiplying or dividing by anything, so I'm not switching my sign. So 6 is less than -1x. Now, here we go. I've got to get rid of this -1. I like to divide by -1. Some people like to multiply both sides by -1, but I am multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So that means that this sign right here is going to switch direction. So 6 divided by -1 is -6. And then -1 divided by -1 cancels out, and I get x. Now, I don't like looking at this, and I changed my sign because I divided by a negative number. So I don't like looking at this with the x in the back. I like to put the x in the front, but if I do that, if this is pointing to the x, then to keep it the same, it has to stay pointing to the x. So these two things mean the same thing. I'll say that again. If this sign is pointing to the x, to make it be the same, it has to stay pointing to the x. So now I know that this says x is less than -6. Okay, so there is my, so they want us to write this in interval notation. So let's talk about what the number line would look like on that. I had -6. I'm talking about everything that is less than -6. It would be, okay, -6, not equal to, so it's getting a parentheses. It doesn't have the bar underneath it, but -6 and everything this way. And this way goes to -infinity. So when I write this in interval notation, I'm starting at -infinity. I go all the way up to -6, but it's getting a parentheses here because it's not equal to -6. So that's what it looks like on the graph. And that's what it looks like on interval notation. So basically anything will work for this that's between -infinity to -6, because all numbers between -infinity to -6 are less than -6. I guess not including -6. So the only time you put a bracket like this is if you see an equal, like if it has an equal to sign. But we didn't have an equal to sign in this one, so it was parentheses on both of them. Okay. This problem looks number 12. So 20 problems on this quiz. We're on problem number 12. You probably want to jot this stuff down real quick. Okay, so let's talk about this. So this time, they're telling us some information. They're telling us that A is 14. So when I see an A, I want to put 14 there. They're telling us that B is equal to 2. So and that's big B. So when I see big B, I want to put 2 there. They're also telling me that little b is 5. So when I see little b, I want to put 5 there. So when we start writing this, we've got the area is equal to 1/2 the height times the base. And this is both bases, big base and little base. Okay, and so when we plug things in, I like to put them in parentheses. Well, A, they told me A is 14. So instead of A, I'm putting 14. I took care of that. Equals 1/2. They didn't tell me what H is, but they did tell me what big B is. It's 2, so I put 2 there. Plus little b was 5. And I'm closing off my parentheses. So when I'm working this problem, I've got 14 is equal to 1/2 times the height. And I can go ahead and combine my 2 and my 5 and get a 7 here. Because the order of operations say that you're supposed to take care of parentheses first. I'm going to come up here real quick. So I've got 14 is equal to, now I can do 1/2 times 7, and 1/2 times 7 is 7/2 or 3.5, it doesn't matter, times the height. I just multiplied the 1/2 times the 7. Okay, now I need to get rid of the 7/2, so I can multiply both sides by the reciprocal. These cancel, so I get H on this side, and on this side, 2/7 times 14 is going to be 4. If you type that in the calculator, 2/7 times 14, you're going to get 4. So the height is 4. Okay. So on number 13, this is a 2.71. I'm going to go a little bit slow on this problem. X minus 4 is greater than or equal to -11. They're asking me to solve that. So I need to get rid of this -4, so I would add 4. Now I haven't multiplied or divided by anything, so I didn't have to do that on this problem. A -11 plus 4 is 7. So when I go to graph this, it does have the equal to part. So when I'm drawing my graph, I want a 7 on there, and it can be equal to 7, so it's going to get a bracket. But this says all x's that are bigger than or equal to 7. So bracket at 7 because it can be equal to, and all the numbers that would be on this side that would be bigger than 7, like 8, 9, 10. So when I write this in interval notation, it's going to, if you go from the left to the right, there's nothing down here. The first time I could have anything is at 7. I'm putting a bracket there because it has the equal to part all the way to forever. And this would be positive infinity. And infinity always gets a parentheses. So x would be 7 to infinity. And this is what our graph would look like. We'd have a bracket at 7 and go all the way colored into infinity. Okay. Number 14. I'm going to come over here to the side. So actually, I'm going to move it up just a little bit so I've got some room to write. But 14 says 9x minus 4 times x minus 5 is equal to 5x plus 4. So jot that down real quick. Okay. Now this time, this got a little bit more complicated, and we do have some parentheses and some like terms that we need to combine. So we're going to take this -4, and this -4 needs to get multiplied by both of these things over here. Okay, and so I'm still going to have 9x. And -4 times x is going to be -4x. -4 times, this is not just a 5, it's a -5. -5 and -5 are the same thing. So -4 times -5, if you type that in the calculator, you would get a +20 is equal to 5x plus 4. Okay, then you're going to want to combine any terms that are alike. So I'm noticing that I have a 9x and a -4x. Those two can go together. Those are like terms. 9x minus 4x, that would be 5x. The +20 though doesn't have an x in it, so it doesn't get combined with those. And then 5x plus 4 on the other side. Okay. So now we want to get our x's on the same side, so we would subtract 5x from both sides. And we would get 20 is equal to 4. Well, nope, it is not. So this is one of those situations where we talked about yesterday, where if you draw a graph of this thing, the answer to the graph of the left side and the right side, the answer should be where the lines cross. Well, these two lines, since everything canceled out and we got something that was not true, these two lines are parallel, and the answer is it's the null set. Nothing's going to work for that. There's no number I can ever plug in to make that work. Okay. Let's look at number 15. This looks like a problem that you're going to have to write out. So I'll give you a minute if you don't have this printed off. The U.S. Senate has 100 members. After a certain election, there are 18 more Democrats than Republicans, with no other parties represented. How many members of each party are there in the Senate? Okay. So I will help you set that up. Go ahead and jot that down real quick. Okay, so basically what we know from this is that we know that the Senate has 100 members, okay? And right now there are Democrats and there are Republicans. And this says, this is not this is I guess, an example. So it's not necessarily true of what's happening right this minute, but there were 18 more Democrats than Republicans. So if we wrote down Republicans, that would be equal to 18. There are 18 more Democrats than Republicans. So that I said that wrong. I wrote that wrong. Sorry. So that means that the Democrats would be equal to 18 plus the Republicans. Okay. There were 18 more Democrats than Republicans. So if you took Republicans and you added 18, you would have the number of Democrats. And there were no other parties represented. How many members of each party are there in the Senate? So another thing that I know is because there are 100 members, I know that the Democrats plus the Republicans have to be equal to 100. So I know that the Democrats plus the Republicans have to be equal to 100. This is not a real difficult problem to solve. If you know that you've got to have a total one, and then you've got to have another statement, what you do with this is, because we know now that Democrats are equal to 18 plus R, wherever I see this, I can put in 18 plus R. So I'm going to say 18 plus R, because Democrats are equal to 18 plus R is equal to 100. Okay. Now, I really don't need those parentheses there. I just used them to plug something in. So there's nothing in front of them. So I could erase or take those off. So 18 plus R, well, that's just one R plus another one R is equal to 100. So 18 plus 2 R's is equal to 100. I combine those two like terms. And then I'm going to subtract 18. So 2R is equal to 82. Divide by 2. And we're going to get the Republicans are 82 divided by 2, which is 41. So 41. Well, if I know that the Democrats plus the Republicans are equal to 100 and the Republicans are 41, then I should be able to figure out how many Democrats I have by just subtracting that from 100. So Democrats are equal to 100 minus 41, which is going to be 59. So 59. There is going to be a problem that's like this on the test. You need to make sure you set it up exactly like this. You want to have a total, and then you want to have a statement, and you want to plug that statement into your total. So whatever letter you're using, you want to replace it with whatever the equation is. Okay. Number 16. Number 16 says that we've got, and this was kind of easy. I think I'm going to give you guys a chance to type this one in the chat, but here's what we're going to write down. So we've got 6S plus 14S is equal to 60. So you guys tell me, what do you get for S? What's the answer? Make sure you combine like terms here first. Okay. I'm getting some threes here. 6x and 6s and 14s would be 20 s's, and equals 60. We would divide by 20 on both sides, and we would definitely get 3. So awesome job. 17. Here's 17. It is a problem from 2.7. So negative 4x is less than 16. To solve this, we would need to divide by negative 4 on both sides. We are dividing by a negative number. Okay, if you divide by a negative number, we talked about this earlier, you've got to flip the sign. So x would end up being greater than 16 divided by negative 4, which is, or 16 divided by negative 4, which is negative 4. So x is greater than negative 4. There is no equal sign here. So when we graph this thing, I'm just going to come down here. When we graph this, and I've got negative 4 here, I want all the things that are greater than negative 4. Because that's what it says. So I would color in everything that's bigger than negative 4 this way. And it would get a parentheses going this way because we want all the things that are bigger than negative 4 and not including it. It doesn't have the equal sign, so it doesn't get a bracket. So in interval notation, when we're reading this, you always read it from left to right. There is nothing down here. The first thing I come to is my negative 4. So I would say, well, it starts at negative 4. And when does it stop? Well, it keeps on going forever, so to infinity. And that's what it's going to look like. You've got to include these parentheses in your answer. That's how you write it. So negative 4 to infinity. Number 18. 8x plus 48 is equal to 3x minus 12. There's nothing really to simplify on both sides, but I do have x's on both sides. So I don't want that to happen. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides of my equal sign. 8x take away 3x is 5x plus 48 is equal to, these are going to cancel out. So I'm going to bring down this, whoa, sorry. I'm going to bring down that negative 12 here. I'm going to subtract my 48. So negative 12 minus 48 will give me negative 60. 48 minus 48 is nothing, so I wouldn't put that down. I'm going to bring down my 5x. Divide by 5, and so x is equal to negative 12. Not 21. Don't know what I was thinking there. Did a number reversal, negative 12. Okay. Number 19 is a word problem. So I'll give you just a minute. So there are 20 problems on this test. So we are almost done reviewing for the test. I will post this video in case you need to go back and look at it. And I'll also post the completed notes. They'll be under course content in Blackboard. So you probably just want to write down this part. If you already started to write down the other part, that's fine. But here's the problem. 3 is added to 5 times a number. The result is equal to 7 more than 4 times a number. Find the number. So they are asking you to write the equation, and then they're also asking you to solve it. Okay, so here we go. If 3 is added, So we know that means a plus. The 5 times a number. So they tell you to use x. So if 3 is added to 5 times a number, so 5x would be 5 times a number. The result is equal, so equal to 7 more than, so more than we're going to add 4 times the number. So 7 more than 4 times the number. So 3 is added to 5 times the number. And then that is equal to 7 more than 4 times the number. Now this is the correct answer. And you'll notice that the 5x and the 3 have been switched. That's okay. And the 7 and the 4x have also been switched, but it's the same thing. Okay, now if we want to solve this, we've got to get all our x's on the same side of our equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 4x. So 3 plus 5x minus 4x would be 1x is equal to 7. Our 4x's are going to cancel out here. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides of our equal sign. 7 take away 3 is 4. And then we've got 1x here. And 1x just means the same thing as x. So x is equal to 4. So the number that's going to work is 4. Don't forget, you can always go back in and plug it in and check your answer. So in this case, I could go back and write my original, but instead of my x, I would put 4. We've been doing this in class. So all of these, you can check them. So this would be 23, 5 times 4 plus 3. And this side would be 16 plus 7, which is also 23. So I know that that's correct. 4 is the correct answer. Okay. Last problem, number 20. So solve the following. Let me make sure I've got all this up here. Solve the following equation and check the solution. So we've got x plus 4 is equal to negative times 6x plus 6. Negative means the opposite of whatever you have. So when you have a negative on the outside of the parentheses, if this was a positive 6x, it's going to become a negative 6x. If this is a positive 6, it's going to become a negative 6. Negative means you're going to do the opposite of whatever's already there. Okay. I can't have variables on both sides, so I'm going to add 6x to both sides. That's going to give me, this would be 1x. So 1x plus 6x is 7x plus 4 is equal to negative 6. Those are going to cancel. And subtract 4 from both sides to get negative 10. So 7x is equal to negative 10. The 4 and the negative 4 canceled out because it turned into 0. And now we're going to divide by 7. And so x is equal to negative 10 over 7. Okay, let me scroll down here and just make sure that they take that answer. The answers are on this, and this is in Blackboard if you want to go through it. Yeah, negative 10/7 is 5. If you want to go through it and rework it and practice again, but keep in mind that you can practice the practice test as many times as you want to test review, and I only keep the highest grade. When you're happy with your grade, that's when you're ready to take the test. So